Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Screenwriters Workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about ideation. Ideation is the most important element of the inception of your screenplay. This is before you outline. This is before you do any planning. This is before you write the first word, before you turn on final draft, before you do anything to do with your script. The ideation is essential. Essentially, what I mean is that if you have a bad idea, if you have a concept that nobody wants to read or isn't going to engage anybody, you're already dead in the water, okay? As far as your screenplay is concerned. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is how I decide on what script I'm going to write and what processes I go through. Now, this is going to be a much simplified version of this process. If you want to learn more about it, practice it, and so forth, the Screenwriters Workshop is open. So if you want to join the community, join the course community, because there are courses and seminars that I do on there on a monthly basis, but also there's access to the community and to myself if you have questions and wish to practice some of the concepts that we will be talking about on your journey to becoming a more accomplished or professional script or screenplay writer. So the first thing I would say is this: you have an amazing idea, and this amazing idea you believe is going to change everything, okay? And you have this concept in your head. You want to write this script, and you're like, I want to get going. I want to write this. Now, the first thing I would say is stop there. Don't go and immediately start committing that to a screenplay or doing anything. You've got to figure out if the idea is worth the time and effort in the first place. Okay. So how I do this, and I'm going to do this visually, but it's the concept of the circles. Okay. And this is the way that we will go. So we'll do a circle in the middle. Actually, a circle. Okay, there we go. That is your idea. That's where it begins. Okay. And outside this circle, we're going to draw another circle. We're going to draw another circle. We're going to draw another circle. Okay, and we're going to draw one more circle. Okay, so this is the idea. Okay, now you begin there at this circle of your idea. Now, the goal of this process is to see if this idea is able to make it out here. Now, in order for the idea to make it out here, it's got to go through this section, through this section. Actually, let me make this actually a little more direct. So it's got to go through this section, this section, this section, this section, to make it all the way there. Okay, and you ask that, what are these sections? The first one is you. This is you, okay? So this section is your mind, and that is the inception of the idea, is this circle there. How I process this is that I have an idea that seems amazing on initial, when it goes into my mind. And I usually take a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. And if after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, so on, the idea still seems good, still seems viable, and I'll name this me. Or in fact, let us call it you. If that idea still seems viable, the next stage is close friends. Okay? You then have to distill this idea into a short paragraph. We call it elevator pitch. Just a paragraph of what the story is. And tell that to your close friends. These are people who know you, people who would be safe for you. They're not going to laugh at you. They're not going to make you feel awkward or weird about the idea that you're thinking of telling a story or writing a screenplay. If you're new to this game, they're not going to do any of that. So you feel very safe with these people. So it could be your parents, it could be your spouse, it could be your sibling, it could be your child, it could be your aunt, uncle, whoever it is. Pick somebody that you feel you can trust, friends, close relationship, whatever, and tell them this concept that you have. If they react close to or even more enthusiastically than you reacted in this first section, okay, and they react positively in this section, then you can graduate to the next circle because you now break through that. And this now is industry. Now, these are people that work in the industry, that are professionals, who make movies, who understand film, who have made films or who are making films, whoever you can access that has experience with movies. And preferably, if you can find a producer, that is actually the best people to talk to. Not screenplay writers, not other screenplay people who actually produce the movies. Directors, possibly. But a producer is best because they are typically skilled at looking, good producers anyway, are skilled at looking at the entire pie. So you go to a producer or an agent or a manager, people who their job is essentially putting films together, putting things together. And I'm not saying that these people are the holy grail of anything. This is just ideation we're talking about here. So it's not whether or not you're going to go back to these people to actually get your movie made or sold. This is just for you to vet what you have. Because you've made it through those first two circles, if the industry people you are able to access react positively, they don't have to be super enthusiastic. They don't have to be jumping for joy at what you've done. They don't have to be any of those things. All that matters in this section is that they don't say, this doesn't make any sense. This is not going to work. Nobody's going to make it. If that happens, this doesn't mean that you stop there, but you should question what you have. I'm just saying, asking questions. This doesn't, because I've gone past this circle even when industry people said no. But it's about you questioning what you have. Now, if the industry people say, you know what, this is a solid concept, this is a good idea, these are the things I would change, so on and so forth, but this is a decent, this could make a good screenplay, this could actually make something. And all you're doing is the elevator pitch. You're doing, and again, pick industry people that you can trust, that you know will be are safe, that you feel that they would be discreet with your concepts. They're not going to rob you or rip you off or anything like that, because those things do happen and they do exist. So be careful about that. But if you're able to make it through there, you go to the final circle with your concept. And this is something that you would not expect, but this is randoms. Now, this is the icing on the cake. These are people who have nothing to do with you, nothing to do with anybody that you know. All that they need to represent are the type of audience that you hope to make your project for. When you're writing your script, you initially have to decide, who is this for? Who would go to this? What is the archetype of the person that this would be for? This is where the industry stage is actually important, because the industry person would typically give you a response based on if they believe there is an audience for your story. That is the type of thing you want to hear. If they're not telling you that sort of stuff, they're not the kind of person you should be talking to. The response you should get should revolve around, who is this for? This is who I think it could be for, or I do not believe there is an audience for this. I can't tell who would go and watch this movie, who would read this script and want to produce it, so on and so forth. When you get past that, the random section is basically, once you've gotten that information, going to people who fit that demographic, telling them your story and saying, what do you think of this? Would you watch this? Now, if they react positively, that is when you are in a good position to actually start planning to write the script. I didn't say you should go and write the script. That is what all the other videos and modules I've made are for, is in preparation for writing, in preparation for putting pen or typing on the screen and doing what you're going to do. This section here, this entire video, is before anything even begins. Before anything even begins. That's what this section is, because if you make it through the randoms, that is when you get to this. That is when you are ready to write, or rather ready to plan, not to write. Don't make that mistake. That is when you are ready to plan your screenplay. Okay? This is ideation. I didn't always use this. I developed this because of the mistakes I made. This is a simplified version. Like in the course, like if you're in the community, I will explain to you exactly how to structure your idea, how to structure your elevator pitch, how to communicate that to the people at the different levels of the circles, and what you should be listening for, how you should receive certain kinds of things that people say to you, how you can then pivot, adapt, because it doesn't mean your story or your idea is dead just because you haven't made it through one of these circles. What it could mean is that things need to be tweaked, altered, and changed in order to have the desired effect from people within that circle in order for you to move to the next circle. Okay? However, there are some ideas that never make it all the way out of these circles into the open space. And if those ideas are not able to make it there, regardless of all the tricks I would tell you, all the tips in order to tweak and change things, do not go forward with that script because it hasn't got a future. Nobody's going to make it. Nobody's going to support it. Don't go forward unless it is a passion project. If it is a passion project, by all means, because it's not about anybody else, it's about you. But you have to be willing to accept the possibility, and the possibility is very high if you've gone through this properly, that that film or screenplay may never be produced. And if it is produced, it may never get made. And if by some chance you have a billionaire sitting around who gives you the money to make it, the possibility that the movie may never have an audience or a robust audience or a big audience. Again, there are many amazing, incredible films that fall into that bracket. Maybe decades down the line, they become cult classics because at the present time, there isn't an audience for it, but there will be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. That is not something you should bank on, especially if you're trying to make a career of this now. But I just wanted to reiterate that please, please, please do not take this process as the definer on whether your story, if it means a lot to you, is worth being told. There are many stories worth being told that do not have a big audience. Many stories worth being told that people, when you tell them the story, have no idea what you're talking about because they just don't have your vision. But you've got to be willing to take the responsibility of whatever comes of that story and screenplay because you weren't able to survive these circles. Okay? Now, I know this is a sort of a different way of looking at things, and obviously I try to do this in a way that is different so that it can be accessible for people who've never written screenplays before. But check out the Screenwriters Workshop, www.thescreenwritersworkshop.net. We are all in there. You can join the community, work with other aspiring screenwriters as well. I'm also in that community where you can ask questions directly of me. And yeah, cheers.